Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Celsius Talk, Retrofitting with Renewable Energies, Finding the Right Energy Mix. This talk is brought to you as a collaboration between RES DHC, Upgrade DH, and Celsius. I will start with a brief introduction to Celsius before we dive at the heart of this month's theme, retrofitting with renewable energy, finding the right energy solutions. As mentioned before, my name is Emilia Pisani. I'm a communications officer at Johanna Berry Science Park. Johanna Berry Science Park, we strive to develop innovation that's good for society and the environment, focusing on material built environment and energy, thus hosting the Celsius Initiative. What is the Celsius Initiative? I see some familiar names and some new ones. So for those of you who don't know who we are, we're a European project that lives on. The project itself started in between 2013 and 2017 on the premise that cities were in a key position to take the lead in the energy transition. At the end of the project, we managed to gather such a network of cities, stakeholders, and a knowledge base that we couldn't let it go. It's too good to let go. So we gathered with our friends at Euroheat and Power, IMCG, Research Institutes of Sweden, the City of Gothenburg, and Johanna Berry Science Park to create this initiative. And today the initiative is, our purpose is to accelerate the energy transition through the deployment of smart and sustainable heating and cooling solutions in cities. So here I would like to highlight, we focus on cities, so city representatives, but oftentimes city-owned energy companies, the ones doing things, putting the pipes in the ground and managing this energy transition, and smart and sustainable heating and cooling solutions. So looking at what is possible, what is being done. We are a demand-driven collaboration hub. There are so many answers, there's so many solutions out there. We just want to bring people together, actors together, and promote that knowledge. So we do this through continuous knowledge sharing, through newsletter and webinars. Some of you might have gotten our newsletter yesterday and the webinar like the ones we have, workshops, and the Celsius Toolbox. In the Celsius Toolbox, you will find articles, reports from other projects such as Upgrade DH, as well as explanations. And we tried to find a good variation between introductory and for you nerdier and experts, you will also find some information there. We support innovation, replication, and scaling because there's so many solutions out there. As mentioned before, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. So we tried, like we do today, to connect to those, really putting in place the solutions and implementing them. We try to work with the Commission to favor policy. This we do very closely with our partner Euroheat Power, and we provide hands-on support for cities through the Forerunner groups. What are the Forerunner groups? It's a solution sounding board for cities. Here it's a co-creation process with and for cities. I see some of our Forerunner cities here present today, so good morning and welcome. And really with them, we try to understand the challenges you're facing and provide solutions. We support cities and plan, implement sustainable and heating solutions and make sure that we don't just look at the technical solution, but we also look at policy, pricing, financing, policy at a local level, as well as a European level. It is with cities, so we support one city at the time, but we gather them, the Forerunner cities gather around common themes and interests. We address key challenges that that one city is facing, but that may reflect in the Forerunner cities that are in the group. We provide expert advice, so some of the experts that are here today. We try to help them exchange and inspire, avoid costly mistakes, because as we all know, when developing these type of infrastructural projects, if it goes wrong, it could be devastating. And of course, we try not to reinvent the wheel. There are solutions. People have gone through this, so we need to talk and exchange and inspire. The different groups have different focuses. We have one for getting started for those cities who are just in the beginning, but really, even if you want to start with the best technologies at the forefront and learn from what's been done. The cities that have networks, but it's still very fossil fuel based. So how can we integrate renewable and heating solutions, which is very pertinent for the webinar we have today. Residual heat. So how can we recuperate residual or waste heat from cities? It's easier and easier, particularly when you have low temperature networks. And we were going to start very soon a group on district cooling because, as we all know, it's getting warmer and the need for cooling is increasing. But now, enough with the boring part. Let me So please take a break from your emails and save the Instagram for later. Though if you're on Twitter, please do not hesitate to tag us and to tag us to tweet about this event. All the different Twitter accounts are in the chat. In our efforts to save the planet, our cities need to become climate neutral. To do so, integrating renewable energy sources in the energy mix is key. I doubt no one in this room is going to question that. But the question is, how do we get there? It's not clear cut. It's not one size fits all. This is why we have invited our experts today, Thomas, Matteo, and Wolfgang, to provide their experience. They each have a very particular background and work with very particular, with their own companies as well as their own projects. And so we'll try today to inspire and provide elements for the discussion and how each city can go forward in their own reality and with their own perspectives. So without further ado, I would like to start with Thomas, management member at Solites. Thomas, you're a man of many hats. You're here representing Solites as well as the RES DHC and the Upgrade DH program. So Thomas, please welcome. If you'd like to turn on your camera and your microphone.
Well, I think you should hear me. Does that work?
Yes, wonderful.
Yeah? Okay. So a very warm good morning to everybody. And thanks a lot, Emilia, for this great opportunity to talk here. I will talk about 2 points which are related to our subject today. One is in general about transformation processes to higher shares of renewables in district heating and cooling networks. And they're linked the RES DHC project, which is a new project we just started. And I was also asked to say something about the status of solar district heating. What's the role playing of solar in this decarbonization processes? But before, 2 words about Solites. We are a research and consultancy institute under the roof of the Steinbase Foundation. We are situated in Stuttgart in Germany. And some of you might know the Steinbase Foundation is a technology transfer organization working worldwide. Our subject at Solites is sustainable heat supply. So basically renewable district heating, and our core fields are especially also solar district heating and seasonal heat storages. We run several R&D projects on national and international level. And we are also consultants for heat suppliers and administrations. And they like to work with us because we also go for innovative solutions. So next slide, please. Before introducing, let's say, the project, I wanted to pick some points. What are the challenges if we want to transform to higher shares of renewable district heating systems? And maybe not so much looking only at the technical aspects, but also at the processes. And then first needs to be said maybe that such processes are really long-term and they are really holistic transformation processes. We know that such changes can take 20, 30 years. And if you go for that, it's not only a challenge for you as enterprise, but it's also involving policy and citizens, and it can work only together if you as heat supply enterprise cooperate here with policy and citizens. So all in all, this needs a strategy, and it needs cyclic planning, and then introducing the measures step by steps. And probably this is one of the most important points, to set up this process very well, because if this is settled well and has the policy background, then also the technological points will work much better. And let's say then at implementation levels, we have to face the fact that renewables are often decentral. They are fluctuating and often they operate at lower temperatures. And I should add here also at lower capacities. So it's a change from, let's say, one big to multiple heat generation points in your network. And this requires also a transformation all along the whole district heating chain. It's not only substituting the heat generation, but also making the network fit. And this maybe also requires measures in the houses. So it's all along the chain. And then, of course, we have to look at what are our sources locally available, especially in cities. This is not an easy task. So often also the heat sources come from surroundings. If we talk about biomass, for example, or also larger solar thermal fuels can be outside of the cities. On the other hand, again, even if it sometimes takes long, of course, renewable district heating and cooling is an option for really fast transition if we compare with measures in every single house. We all know that. It is a great opportunity for local job and value creation, and also for new business opportunities, because citizens also are requesting green solutions for district heating, and so we can also profit from that. Next slide, please. So that's what we are tackling at our RES DHC project, which I want to present here to you briefly. The basic, you see that in the graph on the right top, is that we go through such processes. That means we do not really focus only on technology, but really on the focus on processes. And we do this in 6 cases. And we have in our project, we have so-called free authority-based teams in regions, and we have free heat supplier-based teams in regions in the various countries. So if you look at the partners at the bottom left, you see, for example, this heat supplier-based cases in Austria, which is Energie Graz together with the city of Graz. You will hear from Wolfgang later about what they are doing. But we have also Iren, which is one of the largest heat suppliers in Italy. And we have SECH, which is the Polish Szczecin heat supplier. And on the other hand, we work, for example, on the framework in Baden-Württemberg, in Germany, in Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes, in France, and also in Switzerland, where we look what are really the necessary framework conditions to enhance and facilitate such processes. So it's a mix of, let's say, the very concrete implementation, and on the other hand, on the frameworks. So we started in September. We would like to invite you to follow us, and we would like to team up also with your projects. And I want to mention here that also this year IEA DHC starts a new task shared about this topic, where we treat all the field in the R&D field. Okay, so this in general about renewable. What role can solar thermal play? Emilia, next slide, please. So solar thermal is, of course, one option about all the renewables available, which can be integrated. And just want to give you a short update here. I think corner points are 100% renewable and mature in market. It's not new. We know that such plants are built since more than 30 years now. A very good thing is it is available everywhere in terms of available solar irradiance, but, and this is a big but, you have the need for areas, of course, and that's maybe the biggest challenge we are facing here in urban areas. And I explicitly took this picture because it shows that also close to cities, this is the city of Chemnitz, there are possibilities if you look for areas. We have already capacities of 100 megawatts. Typically, we look at the solar heat demand of the district heating plants. This is the first step. This is 15% usually of the heat demand over the year. But using large storages, you can also increase to higher shares. And economics are today's actually not really a real barrier. We achieve 30 to 50 euro per megawatt hours. If you look at the numbers from Denmark, who is front runner in these technologies, they are even lower. And the big advantage is, of course, that you have stable heat cost. You have an investment and you have depreciation of this cost. But then in the end, on the first operation day, you know your cost for the next 20 years. And this is something also heat suppliers mention, that this is good, that there is no risk in this investment. So, well, this is, let's say, how you can use solar thermal. It can be central plants, it can be also distributed plants. Of course, it has to fit with your other heat generators, and if you have other heat generators in summer, this can be also a competition, of course. Good. Last slide from my side is I wanted to just show you how solar district heating is developing in Germany at the moment. I took Germany because, you know, Denmark is much ahead. Denmark has 15 times more solar thermal installed in Germany, but maybe Germany is a good example because we know Denmark is quite particular in its district heating market. German market is probably a more similar to other European markets. And what you see is that on this right graph, that the thing is really, the solar thermal is really taking a good development now in these years. Here we have these red bars, and these are basically plants which were built in the R&D phase, but now the green and the blue, which represent urban district heating and rural district heating, are really developing well. And we have also figures for the coming years, and you see just that we expect almost a triplication in the next coming years of this sector. This is a positive sign and shows that the technology becomes quite interesting for heat suppliers. We have a two-split market. One, I mentioned that already, is more in the rural areas, the small villages taking biomass and solar thermal, but more capacity is now installed in the city district heating. So the sign is that solar thermal is established. It's of course in competition with other heat supply technologies, and we are expecting at the moment in Germany a new subsidy program which is giving more value to renewables in district heating, which will again also give a push. So far from my side, introduction about this point. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Great, very interesting. Do you find when looking at this graph, I mean, you really see a curve. What do you attribute that very sharp increase of the use of solar panels for district heating?
Sorry, could you just...
Yes, that in the graph you see here to the right, yeah, there's a very sharp rise. The curve raises very, very sharply after 2016. What do you attribute that dramatic increase to?
Yeah, I mean, it's simply the step from R&D to commercialization. Of course, the developments in Denmark showed that the technology is feasible and works well. And of course, it's also the challenge heat suppliers are facing today to find technologies for decarbonizing their systems. And it just shows that it is a valid technology which fits in many cases. In other cases, other renewables will be used. I have to say to this graph that this development looks quite well, but still, let's say, in order to really achieve the aims which are also there in all the studies and the national programs, we still need a 50 times higher installation rate of this technology. So we see a positive trend, but we really have to amplify that.
So there's still a long way to go, but it looks very promising. At least that's we need to. It feels like we need to get on this train now. It's the time to get on this train and to follow this curve. So thank you very much. We'll get back to more questions for Thomas. I see there are no specific questions for him in the chat, and we'll get back to the discussion. But continuing, I would like to, so we looked at the possible technologies to improve and retrofit district heating, but then there's a whole world of software behind this. So I would like to ask and welcome Matteo Pozzi from Optit. He's a general manager and co-owner, to tell us a little bit about what do we see at the forefront of this digitalization, to help us look at the future, what software is needed to ensure the smooth transition, because you have the technical part, but you also have all the software that helps you manage and facilitate this transition.
Hello, you should see me. Can you confirm? Okay, good. If you go, first of all, thank you, Emilia, for this introduction. I think you can move directly to the first slide. Just to introduce Optit and myself, for those who don't know me, I've been a part of this district energy community for quite some time now, so I see lots of familiar faces, but Optit was founded in 2007 as a spin-off of the University of Bologna, with the mission to develop decision support system based on mathematical modeling, statistics, data science, advanced analytics, basically everything that is now referred to as artificial intelligence. And basically, I mean, since the start, we've developed into a company of more than 40 people. That basically split themselves between scientists, a full stack software development, factory, and business analysts to be sure that we can tackle a problem from the actual business issue and business challenge, really go into the details of what the business is trying to achieve, looking at data, because of course digitalization is made of data, so available and retrievable data, and then apply the most advanced and more adequate modeling techniques so that solutions can actually be delivered. And by solution, we mean everything that allows the business to actually embed advanced decision support systems into everyday's and strategic business processes and decision making. So I think you can move. We, as I said, I've been part of the district energy community since I think almost 10 years now. And in the last 3 years, we've been part of this fantastic project, UpgradeEH, together with a very interesting consortium. The objective, so today I'm representing a larger network that spans across from the north to the south of Europe and from east to west, that has been looking at the whole value chain in order to do something which is very important and key to today's European challenge, which is helping finding mature, accessible, available, and possibly convenient technologies to upgrade the performance of district heating systems. UpgradeEH is a coordination support action now in its last year, which means that most of the deliverables have already been developed. And if you access the website, you will find a lot of very interesting material, best practices, the cases that have been examined throughout the project, where we've been looking at 8 different demo sites with a very large variety of challenges, both from a regulatory viewpoint, technical issues, actually maturity elements, and we've been applying the state of the art of the right technologies to actually increase share of renewable, share of residual heat, in fact, increase marginality and overall performance of these systems. And of course, this is thought and conceived with the intention to actually replicate that throughout Europe. I think it's a very, very interesting repository that really links very well together with the Celsius network, with a special view, I think, also on the fact that it's not only about technology, but it's also about business models and the need for some regulatory approach. I think it was quite notable that in Italy a few months ago there was a large conference where the potential of district heating in Italy was discussed from a variety of stakeholders, ranging from politicians down to technical solution providers. So maybe in the discussion, I will be able to refer to some of the good practices that we've analyzed, explored, and demonstrated work in order to increase the performance. And this brings me to my last slide. I'm using this. I see that there's something missing in the forecasting bit. I don't know how if Emilia understands that, but it doesn't really matter. I'm using this very much more as a teaser for the later discussion, because I think the challenge of optimizing the production mix in the modern systems where increasing RES technology, and in fact the increasing mix of technologies, is making managing the production side a really big conundrum. Is something that we could spend an awful lot of time. I think that most of you are aware how the complexity of assets from which we actually produce heat is becoming increasingly varied. And most importantly, we are no longer looking at something that looks at heat as a key commodity, because that is getting more and more intertwined with electricity, both on the demand and supply side. So the challenges are how to actually configure this asset mix, how to forecast what needs to be forecast, which is an awful lot of stuff, how to combine long-term to short-term management challenges, because we know that we need to take investment decisions, we need to structure our budget, but then we need to go to day-by-day unit commitment, meaning how to run the actual systems so that the margins are optimized, so that all technical environmental constraints are achieved, so that the plant actually can run with minimal need for manual intervention. And as I said, sector coupling is also bringing some very, very interesting challenges, because assets, energy generation assets, force the district heating player to actually also play on the trading markets of electricity, which means the day ahead, which is quite usual, but then increasingly, if the system integration allows it, adjustment markets. Very interestingly, in Italy, there's the flexibility markets that are becoming very, very important, and as you all will know, also the continuous trading that is now being introduced with XB. So a huge amount of challenges, management challenges, that can be very interestingly supported by digital solutions. I mean, we are working a path in this direction. We've got very interesting references, but I think that we can spend some time more during the discussion to dig into that. And Emilia, I would stop here so that we can get it more interactive.
Wonderful, thank you. I believe there's a question here by Milosevic, is how is the calculation with CO2, and I believe that refers to your second slide, is considering the price of solar thermal as can be an added value covering the peaks in the consumption of fuel. And if you understand the question, I see Thomas also is you're trying to answer. So do you have a quick answer for this, or should we take it up in the discussion session?
Okay. I mean, let me give an initial answer, then maybe I will ponder a bit on it. In terms of environmental calculation of CO2, of course, there's always a matter of substitution of fossil fuels with a new source that actually is fossil free. That is relatively easy to do. In terms of evaluating I mean, giving a value to it, of course, it now goes with the certificates. I mean, the large number of certificates, which play a huge part in the revenue side of district heating systems. So depending on what decision you were making and what kind of evaluation, you could look at it from the different angles. But I think that this is mostly I mean, my direct and immediate answer. I think that maybe Thomas was also thinking of responding, maybe.
I will type something. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. And if
Thank
not,
you.
as you said, we can take it up in the discussion later as you think. So thank you for that quick answer. So now we've heard from the service provider's point of view, but I mean, as we heard earlier, the cities have a very different reality. You have your citizens, you have your laws, you have very particular ways of financing things. And so here the city of Graz in Austria has shown us it is possible. So how did you get here? How it's a great news, but what were the challenges along the way? And what can you tell us about your experience and making this transition to more renewable energy sources? Wolfgang.
Hello, this is Wolfgang of City of Graz Environmental Department. I'm in particular responsible for my team for energy and climate. Well, how we got there, if we come to the next slide, we see we are quite a good partner mix. You see the City of Graz Environmental Department and Energy Graz, which is a utility company, and our scientific partner, IEE Intec. How we came to this situation, basically you can see it on the next slide, where we have landed right now. The idea or the force was about 8 years ago when we were told by the main supplier of heat from VTP Kraftwerkspark, is it down on the slide, who supplied about 80%, said we can only provide by 2020, and then we need to talk how we continue. So this was a kind of a morning wake. We are forced from the administration side to do certain things, to set up a stakeholder group and a working group, and see how we could manage the future. And by this time we thought, okay, it's a good chance to start transformation. So the first task from the administration side to define the legally areas where you can possibly get district heating, which is colored, kind of big pink color here, where it's possible technically and economically to get theoretical district heating. The next thing is we try to find any heat source in the area of Graz to get into the district heating. And to the left, from the left side of the slide, you can kind of see renewable energies, kind of low temperature heat sources to fit in. Right side and bottom is a bit of high conventional fossil sources. And this brings me to my kind of first question. You have on one hand, you have to provide heat on a proper temperature, but you have to tackle to reduce heat in the objects and in the city area. And there are two possibilities and two solutions we think we could tackle is, on one hand, you have to negotiate with consumers to revamp the houses and get the heat demand down as low as possible. And on the other hand, is kind of the left side of the slide, is to set up limited sub-district heating areas where you can provide low temperature to newly built houses. This kind of the first thing. Another question from my side, another task is how to coordinate all these different sources into the district heating network, because each different source has different temperature levels, different volumes, and offer different amount of heat over the year. So this is a way up to the last 7 years where we are right now. And when we continue into the, another strategy is here on the next slide, is if you think about what would be different strategies. You could think of having solar panels on each object into the city, which means you would have to discuss changes with individual owners and interest groups. Or as an example, what we have been trying to discuss and to set up is a kind of a big solar area for district heating, 400,000 square meters, less or more. What you would need, of course, is seasonal storage. Yeah, and so the opportunity and the advantage of a big thing is you have one big source, and getting to up to 4,400 individual or exchange of 4,400 individual solar units, which means if you find a different technique or different source, it's just one source you have to change. You need no more discuss and negotiate with owners and objects. You just switch on overnight and you have finished your transformation. Is one thing we think would be a good idea on district heating, and a big source. It would be not one, but it will be more. So if you continue to discuss these ideas and the strategy, you finally land kind of 2050 on the next slide. We checked out what is our situation and how could be the way to the Vision 2050 on realistic engineering and realistic technique, which means we do not want to put any or start any study on future techniques we don't know. So what you could find here is, of course, biomass. Biomass is a high valuable energy source. You should use them very, very particular small areas for high temperature. Then, of course, industrial waste heat is quite important. We use this here from a steel mill in the city of Graz. We have been using it for 20 years now, actually. And the next thing is, in combination with solar heat, is heat pumps. Heat pump sources. For the heat pump, you need electricity, renewable electricity, and you need storage. And if you think for a city of Graz, you would need about some 500 megawatts and up to right now 1,200 gigawatts a year. You should and you would have to think about a storage capacity of about 5 million cubic meters. I mean, you would have to imagine that. And with this renewable, the other question is, where do you get the area? In a city like Graz or in a bigger area, hopefully. And if you finalize this strategy and vision, you find out that you only can draw up a picture of 73% of renewable energy. So the question is, a reasonable question is, where do you get the missing 27% of renewable electricity and renewable heat in wintertime? There's enough heat in summertime. So where do you get it in wintertime? And most important question of all is, how can you involve citizens and consumers in this transformation and strategy? Because it's a bit of more involvement and a more working for it. It's not just turning on and off, but you have to think when and how much heat you would need to make the whole system efficient. Yeah, this is my part here. I'm happy to answer questions and ideas and share ideas with you as much as possible. Thank you very much. Well, too fast, sorry.
No, it was great. I was just, as you can see, for once we have sun in Gothenburg, so I'm a little, yeah, but thank you. It sounds like, to me, one of the things that you brought up is really interesting is that the importance of stakeholder engagement and of the citizen engagement. This is one of the things that when talking about cities is it's one thing when the stakeholder engagement are clients, but another thing when it's citizens and when all of a sudden you have to integrate policies. So what has been for you key in engaging your citizens and possibly your politicians as well, the decisions maker in the city to move forward with this plan?
The most important thing is, one thing, you get policies and politics into this system, which is quite good right now because politics support us very much in administration and in energy on utility companies. The other thing is, what is quite challenging, how to get people and consumers and prosumers involved. We try to put any information on the website, and around once or twice a year, there is an event calling Graz Energy Talks, where we present to a broader public the latest on district heating, the latest on energy supply, whatever is going on. What does it mean to tackle 2030 targets, to tackle 2040 targets? And we try to get the information that it's not 2030, 2040 is 10 to 15 years. No, we have to start right now from the spot to get on the way and to hit the target. Otherwise, we won't make it. And so this is the main thing: information, events, newsletter, whatever, to keep people involved. And it's a very hard thing because you would have to address them actively. Yeah, but this is a big challenge. You are quite right.
It sounds great. It sounds like really a best practice to get for many cities to have these energy talks, as you see them a lot at European level, but at a local level, it's really important. So now I'd like to invite all of our experts or speakers to turn your cameras on, and we'll start the discussion. And I have a couple questions here in the question and answer function. So thank you very much, Jerome. It's a question to you, Wolfgang. Do you have a potential for geothermal direct heat as a heat source for Graz?
Again, sorry.
You have a potential geothermal as a heat source.
That's a very, very interesting question, actually. Very interesting. To shut a long story short, it's basically no issue for Graz. The thing is, you would have to dig deeper into this question, geothermal. If it's on a very much surface size, yes, this would be strategically for small houses to use on the level down to 100 meters with kind of pipes going in, and you feed your houses with this heat source. But you have to think of reheating this ground in summertime. Most people think about geothermal with these huge geysers from Ireland and so on, where you get really hot water out of the ground. There you need the specific sources, which are very rare. You find them in the bigger area of Munich, for example. Vienna tries to dig holes and to find somewhere down to some 100 meters, but we have already checked roughly, there are no such sources and situations underneath a city of Graz to get that. And on the other hand, you have to be very careful in a dense populated area to dig holes because you never know what then happens, because you hit a hot water or any other stream. What then is, you get examples from Switzerland and southern Germany, where you could really damage houses and so on. So basically, unfortunately, no source for that to use it here in Graz.
Thank you. What about Thomas and Matteo? Do you have any experience with geothermal in cities? Because this is a very relevant question that is sitting, is sometimes you think, oh, this is the solution, but it's a lot more technical or delicate than it might seem straight away.
If I may start, within the Upgrade DH project, one of the cities is Ferrara, which is lucky enough to sit on top of a very interesting deep geothermal sink. I mean, lots of very hot water, 2,000 meters down. It was a huge investment actually to get and retrieve that, but that together with waste to energy facility actually managed to provide something like 93% of the whole city, actually the whole network heat requirements, which means that where geothermal is available can really transform the way that district heating actually works. So I would say, of course, thorough analysis needs to take place, but when the nature helps, it is really, really, really very interesting.
I can also say something about the policy we have in Baden-Württemberg, which is the federal state we are situated. We have potential of geothermal in Baden-Württemberg. It's along the Rhine Valley, and it's a very interesting potential. And there are the plans also to make this source usable. There is a critical point that we had some not positive cases in the last decades, which had also to do with seismic activities. The point is that the knowledge is there how to do this seismic analysis really well. Now the state of Baden-Württemberg turned that also into legislation. So things are not allowed today anymore. So to go in the real, we call it in the hard, you have a soft shell on top and then it becomes harder below. And you cannot anymore go in the harder shell. And there is really confidence if you do this thing right and using up-to-date technology with seismic analysis, then the things go well. But this few happenings or few things that happened in the last decades create a lot of mistrust, of course, in the society, and this still has to be overcome now.
Yeah, I think that you have a really good point there of the distress, and it makes me think of Milosevic's question here. I see Wolfgang, you started answering by typing, but is how do you get people to think positively about district heating and convince them to connect? And this is, I think that oftentimes in many countries, district heating is regarded as this communist old school solution, and they're not aware of, okay, no, you have these really high-tech technologies that are constantly being developed, and it is interesting, it is more efficient, and how do you get to change that mentality of the citizens to accept this, and then of the end users to actually, okay, put their money and connect?
Yes, another quite challenging question, because I start with this not quite positive one. People think district heating is too expensive, yeah, and too old school. You're definitely right. But when you look into newly built houses, kind of smart city quarters and quad city areas, you can supply them with low temperature from industrial waste heat, from solar areas close by. You can get people involved in this kind of heat source. And another thing is they need not worry about any personal heating in the downstairs. Yeah. Especially, I mean, in earlier days, it was carrying heat material or burning material as wood or coal. Nowadays, often you have got gas in your house, which is a bit of a very tricky thing. Oil, of course, as well. So it's just hot water, and you can individually you can add a solar panel on your house as well. So you have to get people much more involved, and there's no emission in your area. It's just nicely warm water, and that's it. Yeah, and this is a quite strong discussion. You're right, but still working on that. And this is what you need: communication, as I mentioned before. Graz Energy Talk. We try to offer people information to see what we can do them. We get them involved. What could they do to get this district heating and so on. So communication and exchange.
Thank you. And I see that both Matteo and Thomas would like to comment. So please, we started with Matteo last time. Thomas, would you like to give your first?
Yeah, I think Graz is a great example, and I have been also always looking what is happening there, and the things are organized. But we also have, especially in let's say medium-sized cities, which have district heating networks about, let's say, 100 gigawatts, 200 gigawatt hours a year, really positive cases. And I think one of the best cases I know is that one city really takes the thing serious, and they made really a concrete climate protection plans with really binding targets. But then they came together with the enterprises and the citizens, and they were really discussing how can we do it. And then the local utility got one task, others got task as well, but they had the task then to what does district heating play a role in the heating decarbonization or climate protection. And then they came up with concrete plans about how they can do. And this was communicated and this was discussed. And now I see in this small town or medium town that district heating has a real positive image. They also built a nice solar district heating plant quite close to the city, which is also giving a positive image to that. Of course, you can also use some technologies which are more recognizable. And they have not only the plans now to decarbonize, but also to extend district heating and to replace the gas network. And this insight takes, I think it's a process. It takes quite a while that you go step by step, but then you come to the point and say, well, gas is also fossil and we have to replace it.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess also I think one of the things Wolfgang pointed out earlier, you can't go any further with gas. We cannot continue because it's running out, because it's really the pollution. So cities really you need to start looking at these sources. Matteo, what would be your perspective on this?
Well, I actually just wanted to bring to the page that when convincing the public opinion to the advantages of district heating, the first ones to be convinced very often are the regulators. In Italy, we've got the unfortunate situation where recent legislations for energy efficiency actually put incentives on individual boilers and nothing on district heating. And we know large potential projects being jeopardized by imbalances in the market. So I think that the big challenges is actually to make sure that everyone from the top really gets an image of district heating as it is today, which is a very modern, accessible and affordable solution. Because otherwise it really gets lost in the battle against gas and electricity, of course. So I think I mean we always speak about the good practices, but also we have to face reality which is made of difficulties that are true and must be faced.
Strong historic lobbyists, I can imagine.
Yeah.
But thank you. Now we only have 5 minutes left. Unfortunately, time goes fast when you're having good time and especially interesting conversations. But I think that here Robert has an interesting question: is do you consider waste heat from buildings, example shower heat recovery, that we can recover around 40% of waste heat as possible source for district heating. And so this is what we call sort of waste heat from sewage water. And I'm going to take a quick, yes, there is. It's been proven in many projects. In fact, if you look at the newsletter we sent yesterday, there's an article from Reuse Heat, another project that helps you assess these types of solutions. There are many urban waste heat possibilities available. So absolutely. And I would like to take the last 3 minutes to ask you guys to have concluding words. If there's one message you'd like to give our audience today that they take home, what would it be?
Anyone?
Would you like to start, Matteo?
Okay. Well, I think that, of course, coming from a digital world, I would say we've got the technology, and that technology needs to be managed. And I think that the challenges are huge, but the solutions are accessible. I think there's no magic wand, but I think that everyone in district heating is used to thinking ahead with an innovation path, and I believe that we really have a big potential at hand that really needs to be leveraged.
Great. Thomas?
Yeah, I just want to repeat. I think it's not. I think technology is there and technical solutions, and we have great engineers everywhere. So I think we find the technical solutions. I again want to underline and stress the process, and the process made in 2 aspects. The first one is really a good planning from the beginning, and then continuously, and secondly, also a good communication with all groups involved. I think this is key. And then maybe as last point, we have to see that these are really, really big investments. And I think that's quite a challenge for the enterprises, and probably programs, national programs, really have to value these changes and this solution for climate protection.
Thank you. And last but not least, Wolfgang, you've done it. So what would be your message for the cities and the people listening today?
Well, we, the utility companies, scientific partners, and administration have to do our homework, definitely, for the transformation. But as a member of the City of Graz of public administration, I have to stress that we need the people. We can't do it without people. So my main message is commit yourself personally to renewable energy. Otherwise, we won't make it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I would now also like to, unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to answer all the questions. I will copy them and post them on our LinkedIn. So there, hopefully, Wolfgang, Thomas, and Matteo, we can continue the discussion if that's okay with you. And also very much thank you for taking the time to prepare these presentations, sharing your knowledge with us. And I look forward to continuing the discussion in LinkedIn and hopefully in person once we can meet again.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Take
much.
care, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
You too. Stay safe.
Bye-bye. Stay safe. Yeah.
Goodbye, everybody.